Hello and welcome back to my FPL channel, FPLD in it here, and today we are talking about chip strategy for 24-25. Hopefully you still have all 5 chips available, because if you don't, you probably overplayed them and you probably played them at the wrong time. But today we are going to be talking about the chip strategy you should be employing for the rest of the season. I still have all 5 chips available and I'm going to be talking you through about what I'm going to do, what it's likely to look like, and hopefully you enjoy it. So without further ado, make sure you press a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and let's get into my presentation on FPL chip strategy for 24-25. All right, so we have the bench boost available, the triple captain available, the wild card available, the free hit available, and the assistant manager that's going to come in for 24-25 in about 3-4 game weeks time. So what do we need to consider? The Emirates FA Cup. That is going to cause a blank game week in game week 34. When the teams that make it play the semi-finals, realistically, it could be 4 Premier League teams, and whoever they play in game week 34 will blank, which will make a big game week 66, 36, where we go. The other one you need to be concerned with is the Carabao Cup. So that's going to create a blank game week in game week 29. And at the moment, Tottenham beat Liverpool in the first leg 1-0 at home, and Newcastle beat Arsenal 2-0 away at the Emirates. So you would think that Newcastle's going to win, which means that Newcastle versus Crystal Palace will blank at the moment, and Liverpool didn't win. So that means that Tottenham versus Fulham is going to blank at the moment. So let's have a bit of a closer look at what that actually means for your tip strategy. So the FA Cup. Emirates FA Cup will cause a blank in game week 34 for the teams who make the FA Cup semi-finals and the opponents for them in game week 34. At the moment, we know that Everton won tonight. I'm literally recording this after that game, so they're definitely through. And there are 4 Premier League clubs playing each other, which means there's going to be a grand total, at best, of 18 Premier League clubs playing into the 4th round of the FA Cup. We don't know how many will make the FA Cup semi-finals, but you would guarantee that almost every year, 4 of them make it, which means there's going to be at least 4 Premier League clubs with their fixtures against their opponents blanking that week. So that's definitely something you want to keep in mind when you're playing your free hit, because realistically, that is the week where you're going to be under most pressure to field a different team. Then we've got the Carabao Cup. The Carabao Cup will cause a very small blank game week 29, where only 4 teams are going to be affected from the Premier League. At this point, after the 3rd legs, it would be Tottenham versus Fulham and Newcastle versus Crystal Palace. Now, I personally believe that Liverpool will overturn that result at home in Anfield, and it'll be Liverpool versus Aston Villa that will blank instead of Tottenham versus Fulham. But at the moment, you would say that Tottenham have the advantage, 1-0 lead. Newcastle against Arsenal, Newcastle won 2-0, and you would think that Newcastle will continue on from here. Arsenal would need to beat them 3-0 in normal time in order to overturn that tie, or beat them by at least 2 goals to send it extra time. I just can't see it personally. Without Saka in their team, I just think that Newcastle are through, which means that Newcastle versus Crystal Palace will be the blank. And that means that between now and game week 29, if you're going to dead end, which is not something I would recommend, but I'm hoping to not bring in assets that are with those teams, because realistically, you don't want too many Newcastle Crystal Palace assets, because if they're going to blank in game week 29, you're not going to be able to play them. So for me, it changes my transfer plans. Originally this week, I was going to bring in Crystal Palace assets, but now I'm like, if I bring them in now, it's another transfer to bring them out before game week 29. And I'll get into my chip strategy. If I'm wild cutting in game week 30, it's not transfers I really want to be using, if that makes sense. So hopefully that makes a bit more sense. So let's get into it. So triple captain is the first chip you should be playing. Now, lots of people made the mistake of playing triple captain when Southampton played Man City, and they played it on Erling Haaland, and he got 1 goal off like I feel like it's 9.4 XG. Realistically, you always hold the triple captain for a double game week. And the best double game week is when Liverpool play the make-up fixture with Everton, and it's either going to be in game week 24 when they play Bournemouth and then they'll play Everton, or in game week 25 when they'll play Wolves and then Everton. And who better to play it on than Mo Salah? This dude is in incredible form, hasn't blanked in since, I actually can't remember what game week it is. It's before game week 10. The dude is in phenomenal form. You just play it and get it over and done with. It is the best way to play it. Lots of people talking about the assistant manager chip playing on an Arnie Slot, but reality, if Arnie Slot stuffs up one of these games, it's actually not a good use of the assistant manager chip. That's the end game there. So, all right, without further ado, wildcard chip. This is the big one. So most people should have been holding it. I played my first one in game week 12, which was a good time to play it. Lots of people held it to like game week 19, which means you're well set up to play your second one in game week 30, which is the best time to play it, because with the blank game week in 29, you're going to be transferring players out that you probably want back on your wild card in game week 30. So it makes sense to like transfer them out at the latest point. Hopefully they make you a lot of team value. I wouldn't be transferring out players like Cole Palmer and Mo Salah that have built you so much team value. Isaac is fast becoming that kind of a player as well. So you've got to factor this into your teams. And at the moment, the fact that Arsenal are losing means that Cole Palmer's not going to be affected. So that's brilliant because he might be a really good captain in game week 29. But that's something you've got to take into account when you're doing your wild card. And you don't want to be losing team value. You don't want to be like dead ending completely, selling all your players. You don't want to be selling Mo Salah at 13.7 when he's made you like 0.7 team value and selling him for 13, then bringing him back in the week after at 13.7. You're going to lose so much team value. Definitely not something you should do. You should definitely just bench those players you got multiple team value in for blank game week 29 if they're not going to play. At the moment, Liverpool aren't going to be affected. I do think they'll overturn the result in the return leg against Tottenham. Tottenham just can see goals. I just can't see Liverpool not overturning it. For me, it's going to be a Liverpool-Newcastle final. That's what I'm factoring in at the moment, which means that I'm concerned about bringing in Crystal Palace assets at the moment. So, yeah, just something to keep in mind. It does allow you, if you play in game week 30, to attack the last 8 fixtures really hard and really play that assistant manager chip, the bench boost chip with lots of fluidity and like hopefully attack the rest of the season, get bulk points and hopefully boost your rank over that period of time. The free hit. Now, if Liverpool and Arsenal both got through, it would be Arsenal versus Chelsea and Liverpool versus Aston Villa. And lots of people own players from those teams. And that would make blank game week 29 a really good opportunity to play free hit. I just don't think it's the right play. I think at this point in time, you factor in that Newcastle's probably going to beat Arsenal and you base your team around that. I still think Liverpool overturn the Tottenham result. Tottenham just aren't a good football team, and I just can't see them going to Anfield and keeping the result they got in the first leg. That, for me, that's just what it is. So for me, I'm expecting them to go over and overturn it. So I'm expecting a Liverpool versus Aston Villa and a Newcastle versus Crystal Palace. A free hit, I just don't think it's the best play of it in 29. In game week 34, where it's going to be another blank for the FA Cup semi-finals, there's likely to be way more than 4 teams blanking, and I just think that is the best play to use it. I remember using my free hit last year on just a dud game week where like there was like 8 or so 10 teams playing and just didn't work out well for me. So like it can work out well. You can play in game week 29. I'm just saying you'll be better off playing it in blank game week 34. When it comes to the bench boost, now, for me, at the moment, the assistant managership has so many points attached to it where you can make up so much ground. I really don't know how best to stress it. Last year, Oliver Glasner, Crystal Palace, if you played at the right time, made you over 60 odd points. If you play it on like an Arnie slot or whatever, they're realistically not going to make you more than 40 points. And I think this is a chip where you just risk it for the biscuit. And that's what I'm going to be doing. Yeah, so like bench boost, I think the best time to play it is actually in double game week 33, but you could play in double game week 36. It depends on when you want to play the assistant manager chip. If you think someone's in really hot form, and we'll get into this a little bit later on, then you play it. But for me, I just think that it makes more sense to play the bench boost in after you've done your wild card like game week 30. You've set up the team. You're ready to go. Maybe there's an injury or whatever. You've got a second goalkeeper playing. You just play it, get over and done with double game week 33. Hopefully you maximize most of your team in players that are going to be playing 2 games over that game week. And then in double game week 36, you play the assistant managership. I think that that's definitely the best place to do it. But you could do it the other way around. You could play double the bench boost in double game week 33, or you could play it in double game week 36. And that brings us to the assistant manager chip. So this chip lasts 3 continuous game weeks. If you want to know more about it, check out my video I did, I feel like 3-4 weeks ago, whatever it was. Whenever it was announced, I did a good chip breaking down my strategy in terms of using the chip. And I actually think that you need 3 transfers to save based purely on the manager for this chip, because I think you want to be attacking the fixtures where the league table says that your team is 5 places below someone above it's playing. They've hopefully got a home fixture and they'll beat them. Because realistically, home fixtures mean more chances for a win or a draw. And at best, even if your team draws, you're still going to be making more points than if you pick a team that's at the top and they get a win. For me, that's just a play you've got to do. With the way the assistant manager chip works, if you're playing it on a team at the top, yeah, I get it. If you're playing it on a double game week, it just doesn't make too much sense to me. It just makes more sense if you play it on a team that's got more chance of beating a team above it that's 5 places above. There's so many points there, and you could literally shoot up the rankings so hard. It's just ridiculous to me. So the best time you can play it, 31 to 33 if you're not playing the bench boost and you play your bench boost later. But realistically, you either want to play it in 35 to 37, covering the double game week in 36, or you play it in 36 to 38. For me, that's just the best way of doing it. Even if your team gets a draw against a team that's 5 places above it, you're still making more points than if the team that you pick, for example, Liverpool just gets a win below it, 6 points. You're going to be making more points. That's my whole strategy in regards to the assistant manager chip. Check out my video for that because it literally makes a lot of sense if you look at it. So the league table as it stands: Liverpool, Arsenal, Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, Newcastle, top 5 teams. You're not going to make any more points based on that, except if they win. You just get the normal win points. Man City in 6th, realistically, they're not going to beat Liverpool. I just can't see it. But if you look further down, and here we go, the assistant manager chip, as I said, has the highest upside for points, but we're playing it in another 10 weeks' time. It's hard to tell what the table is like. At the moment, the table now, I sit there and look at it and go, Everton just sacked their manager. Are they going to score enough goals? Wolves have sacked their manager, got a kind of new manager bounce. Crystal Palace definitely aren't the 15th worst team in the league. West Ham sacked their manager. Graham Potter's in charge. Will they get a new manager bounce? Man United, how are they 13th? I've actually got no idea. Tottenham, they're 12th. So these are things you've got to keep in mind. So the highest upside for points we're playing is the assistant manager chip. But as I said, league table in 10 weeks' time could look very different. Man United might have soared up in 7th place. I just can't see it at the moment. They need a striker in order to get up there for me. So this might mean also playing it earlier than expected if a team really hits form. So, for example, Graham Potter's just taken over West Ham. He might just get the best new manager bounce. You go, it's come available. West Ham are on a roll. Just want to play it on him. Just get over and done with. 3 weeks in a row. Wins 3 games above teams higher than him. So, for example, West Ham played, I feel like they've actually got fixtures over 24 to 27 against teams higher on the table. He could milk them all if he's on a proper new manager bounce. Win them all. And you're laughing because he's going to make ball points. So that's something you need to keep in mind. Tottenham and Man United, I'm expecting them to hit form at some point. And in reality, if they hit form at some point, they're going to smoke teams like Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Fulham, Brighton above them. It's definitely going to be possible. Even Crystal Palace get a draw with Chelsea at home on the weekend, which means they would have got 8 points, which is more than a win. For example, if Chelsea had played Crystal Palace, they would have got a win, would have been 6 points. Crystal Palace automatically, if you play all of the guys that are there, already got 8 points from a draw. So you can see where I'm going with this. It's definitely the place where you can make bulk points from it. don't panic. You do not need to be picking a good team here. You just need to be picking and assessing who's in good form. And at the end of the season, the teams down the bottom, like the Leicesters, the Ipswich, the Wolves, the Everton, the Crystal Palace, the West Ham, Man United, Tottenham, they'll be fighting it out to get out of that position. And teams that are comfortably mid-table, I'm looking at your Fulhams, your Brightons, etc., potentially out of the European race. They're the teams to target. And I'm telling you, there's bulk points to be had there. So for me, that's when I'll be playing it. Maximize on those points, potentially for a win, like 16 points for a win if your team's 5 places below. All you need is one of them, and you've already accounted for 2 weeks picking a higher rated team. So for me, that's the play. Also, having it cover 3 weeks means you are limited. So if you play this in game week 31 to 33 is locked. You can't play any other chip. And then obviously the blank game week in 34, really that's where you play your free chip. And then you've either got 35 to 37 or 36 to 38. That's it. So yeah, you got to factor that in, and you really want to get the most amount of points you possibly can. So I've just showed the ladder as it is. It's likely to change between now and when you're going to play the assistant manager chip, and you still need to keep that money involved. But that is my chip strategy between now and the end of the season. I really think you should be playing the triple captain first. Then you've got the wild card. Then you've got the double game week. Then you've got the free hit in game week 34. And then I think potentially you should be playing the assistant manager chip last. Rack those points up to finish your rank the highest you possibly can at the end of the season. I think that's a way. Let me know in the comments if I got it wrong. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you've got through to the end of this video, make sure you press like and subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching. That's been FPL Unit. Thanks for watching.